Hey y'all, it's Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my March wrap up. Now we need to do this super quick because I have people coming to do the lawn and it's gonna get real loud real fast. As you can see, I don't have Beebs with me. We're not doing wrap up roulette this month. I think I'm gonna let wrap up roulette die. It just wasn't getting the kind of traction that I was hoping it would. So in the month of March, I read 19 books. And that's me slowing down. I read 8 of those with my eyes. And that is a huge deal because y'all know I'm the audiobook queen. The first book I read was The Last Quintin. I gave this a 4-star on Goodreads, but it's really a 3.75. I hate giving those kinds of readings. I think they're so douchey, but this one truly is a 3.75. It's a sci-fi-esque story. I really wanted more sci-fi elements in it. I really loved the conversations about heritage and humanity, but I just feel like it didn't dig deep enough. I still cried a bit, and I wasn't the biggest fan of the ending either, but definitely a solid read. I'll be keeping an eye out for this author for sure. The next book I read was Garlic and the Witch. I gave this one 3 stars. I'm really bitter about it. Everyone was right when they say Garlic and the Vampire is better. Something happens in Garlic and the Witch that I just don't like. I am not on board with it, and I feel like it was done intentionally so there couldn't be more installments. But it was still fine. Like, I still held on to my physical copy. I probably will return to it again in the future. I did learn that it doesn't matter how much character growth happens. I will forever hold a grudge against celery. Celery is a bitch. Always. The next book I read was Atomic Habits. I picked this up because everyone raves about this book. I gave this 3 stars, but it's like a low 3-star, like almost a 2. I don't understand the hype with this one. Like we did not read the same book. This is a 3 and not a 2, mostly because the ebook ends at 67%, so I didn't have to slog through it anymore. And for me, that is worth an additional star. I just really didn't like this author. He was kind of a D-bag. I don't know. I just didn't like the way that it was written. It was the further I got into it, the more I felt like I was at a work seminar. And I hated that for me. After that, I picked up World of Wonder. I love this cover. I've seen a lot of people talking about this book. This one was also a 3-star for me. I really loved the way the story was told, and I learned a lot of stuff. I just didn't find it very mind-blowing. I read A Court of Silver Flames again, and I gave it 5 stars again. It is my favorite Sarah J. Maas book, which is funny because I am known as a plot-based reader. It's debatable if there even is a plot in this book. But the character development is just top fucking tier in my opinion, and it slaps every single time. I love that book. I read That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon. Would I have picked this up without the internet's influence? Probably not. But I did, and I gave it a 2. As of right now, this is my most disappointing book of the year. And it's really hard to disappoint me because I go into everything blind. It's hard to be disappointed when you don't even know what the fuck you're reading. The beginning of this book was so fucking good. I was in immediately. I loved our characters. I loved our world. I loved everything. It took a nosedive when we got to the romance. Not only is it the most insta-lovey thing I've ever read in my life, but it's sex scene after sex scene after sex scene, for the whole second half of the book, and then it just ends. If you want to have a smutty book, go ahead and have your smutty books, but these were the worst written sex scenes I think I've ever read, and I've read a lot of shitty books in the past couple of years, so that's really saying something. If I ever hear the word bud used in a sex scene again, I will riot in the fucking streets. So I won't be continuing on with any more of these. Y'all can have fun with that. I am not here for it. I, of course, had to pick up The House with Hidden Meanings. Okay, I love RuPaul. I love drag. If you love RuPaul, you are probably going to like this book. I gave this one 4 stars. If you are here looking for tea, you're not going to find any. That's not what this book is. There is a weird kind of scene in regards to Madonna, but I don't think it's intended to be tea. That's not the point he's trying to make. I read Mislaid in the Parts Half Known. Is that what it's called? I am so far removed from this series at this point, and I am just not on board to do a reread. So this one was only 3 stars. I just had a really hard time connecting to anything or kind of even really understanding what was going on. Don't let the cover deceive you. Like, if you are here for dinosaurs, they are barely present. So don't get excited about that. Will I keep picking these books up? Yes. But I feel like I definitely am due for a reread. Like, I need a full refresh because this wasn't the vibe. This is what, like, book 9? And I think it's been at least 4 books since I've done a reread. So I read Jane Eyre. I gave this 2 stars. I think this is the worst classic I have ever read in my life. I'm really proud of my Goodreads review for it, so I will just place that here so y'all can read. But I hated it. I hated it so much. So much. I read Crown of Midnight. I am doing the thing. I gave this 3 stars. If it wasn't for Moss 101, this probably would have been a 2. Again. It's rough out here in these streets. I read What Feasts at Night, another low 3 star. I don't feel like What Moves the Dead needed a sequel. I feel like it was fine on its own. It just seemed really rushed and underdeveloped in my opinion. I was so wishy-washy about it that I feel like I need to reread book 1 to see if I even still like that one. I read Dear Medusa, and I gave this 5 stars. I still can't talk about this book without getting emotional. Long story short, 16-year-old me needed this book. Like, she really fucking needed this book. I am so glad this book exists. I still can't believe that I don't own a physical copy of it yet. It still hurts too much to talk about. I followed that up with The Black Tongue Thief. This one was a 3 star, but this is definitely, it's not you, it's me. If you are wanting to get into like epic and high fantasy, but you're scared, I feel like this is a perfect bridge book. It's really like low maintenance in the terms of like world building and language and magic and everything else, but it is super funny. It is super fast paced. The audiobook is a 10 out of fucking 10. Whoever narrates that audiobook needs to narrate every audiobook. It just wasn't for me. Like, I don't think this genre is for me. I keep pushing myself to be a reader who picks these kinds of books up, and I just don't think that I am. But I highly recommend it, even though I didn't really care for it. But like, it's nothing against the book. Like, it is totally just my personal preferences. I read De-Evolution. This was another 5 star. Who knew that Sasquatch books were gonna be my thing? I loved this book. It made me so nostalgic for like found footage horror movies and the book The Hot Zone. I read Glitterland. Okay, I gave this a really low 3 star. I just need to bite the bullet when it comes to this author and just accept the fact that I'm never going to read another one of their books that's as good as Boyfriend Material. And I just need to accept it and move on. Because basically every other book that I've read from this author, and there have been a handful, have been like 3 stars or less. So if you're interested in anything this author has put out, just ignore it all and just read Boyfriend Material. I promise you that's the only one you need. I read Tender is the Flesh. Beebs finally talked me into it. This was a book I swore I was never going to read. I was never going to fucking read it. I wanted nothing to do with it. I knew it was going to trigger the fuck out of me. I didn't want it. I didn't fucking want it. But she finally convinced me and I gave it 4 stars. I think this should be required reading. I feel like there is so much to take away. I feel like every single book club that's ever book clubbed needs to read this book. There's just so many things to discuss. There's even more to discuss when you take into consideration what the author is choosing not to say. It was so good. It was so good. It was so fucking sad and it was so fucking like triggering for me. Like, I was sobbing in like chapter 3, but I think it's a very important read. I followed that up with The Road. This is one of those books where I feel like I take away more from it upon reread, so I did keep my physical copy. This was only a 3. It is very character driven. I became very attached to this father and his son, and I sobbed at the end. But if you're here looking for a plot, there's not really one. I think it's another one of those where like you're kind of left to your own devices to figure out how and why these characters got to where they are. I read The Angel of Indian Lake. I gave this only 3 stars. Listen, okay? My Heart is a Chainsaw is just top fucking tier. Like, I don't think anything Stephen Graham Jones writes is going to top that book for me. but I will say that this one was spectacularly written, and those acknowledgments still made me cry, and it's very good. Like, I'm glad that I decided to finish out the series. I'm glad that Jade got an ending. Last book of the month I read was Walking Practice. This was only a 3-star. I really loved the conversations surrounding queerness and what it means to be human, but it just didn't speak to my soul. But if you're looking for a really weird book, this, like, I recommend that people pick this up. This is another one that I recommend, even though it wasn't my favorite. And that was it. The dogs are barking. The lawn is going to get mowed soon. I need to wrap this up. This was not my greatest wrap up, but thank you for watching if you watched it. Give this video a like if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Leave me some comments. I love talking to y'all. It's been a minute, and I will see you soon in my next one. Bye.